resources on our website. And then just a couple of quick pointers on the application. So things that are really important, site control. You really need to see that folks, you know, have a lease, have a deed, ideally. If not, they have like a letter of intent, or they're in the process of buying the building. That's really, really important. They also need to think about the minimum that folks have to cover in the project. They can get reimbursed for it if they're at the 100% mark for the grant, but 25% of the project cost is what they have to cover. So they should be in conversations with their lender. You know, maybe they have the funds already, that's great. But they should be thinking about where are they gonna get those funds, looking at their credit score, that type of thing. And then last two things, they need to talk to contractors and ideally have bids, and then think about the neighborhood context. What is the project bringing to the neighborhood? Is it jobs? Is it a great design? Bonus points, if they reference the community plan, that's where all of you come in. And that's the catalytic impact part of what we look at for the NOF projects. It's very competitive. We had over 1,300 people take the pre-screener last time. 325 did the full application. We were able to select 32 in the last round. So we expect it'll be as competitive or maybe even more. So if you have questions, you can email us at nofcityofchicago.org or check out our website. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions? No, hearing none. Let's move on. Just a brief update on the Together Now program. That was just got an email in my inbox today, but it's something that we've been brewing for a little while now. Second round applications are out, and you know, this is for eligible businesses and nonprofits who have been affected by COVID.
I really have to focus. Okay.
Received a grant already. You'll need to. You won't be eligible, but otherwise, you know, you receive up to $4,000 as part of the program. The program's open till August 31st, and there'll be a webinar on the 25th, and this is information I received today. So just make sure that if you're a community partner or alderman, if you don't know already, we can get that information out there to everybody so they have an opportunity to take advantage of these funds. Okay, so you know, the last two things we talked about were you know, really geared towards small businesses, right? You know, obviously, COVID grant would help recover at least some of the damage from COVID, and NOF is certainly a great tool that the city has in order to improve your business. But you know, to dig a little deeper here with our corridor, you know, I think we kind of need to broaden the discussion about what other tools or what other options are available for all the small businesses that are currently on the corridor. And that's why we invited Dion here to give a presentation about Main Street America and their program. So Dion, feel free to take it from here.
Sure, thank you. Would you like to give me control of the slides? I'm not sure if you saw my message, where I can move them, or do you just need me to say next slide?
Just, can you say next slide?
Well, next slide, please. Hello, everyone. I'm Dion Bowe, Director of the Urban Main Program with the National Main Street Center. I am familiar with some of you from my past positions held with the City of Chicago or LIFT Chicago, so all of my work essentially has been steeped and based in Chicago community development, except for the past 3.5 years since I've been heading up the Urban Main Program with the National Main Street Center. Just so you'll learn a little bit more about us, the National Main Street Center is a national leader in economic development and community revitalization. Next slide. We've been around for 40 years. Essentially, we were established by the National Trust for Historic Preservation some 40 years ago as a program of the trust. However, about 7 years ago, we spun off as our own 501c3. To back up, the National Main Street Center was created because of, you know, the harmful impacts and effects of sprawl, as it was really changing the retail nature of our commercial, you know, our neighborhood commercial districts, where most folks will go do their shopping, pick up their local goods and services. You know, Main Street is also, you know, in both rural and urban communities. So you know, we did a very good job making ourselves known in rural places. In fact, if you've traveled many of our cities in Illinois, you've probably hit on one of our main streets: Libertyville, Waukegan, Sterling, Illinois, Galena are just some of our Main Street communities. We're currently in over 1,200 communities, and we work in 45 different states. Normally, we work very closely with a coordinating program that is located at the Department of Economic Development and Commerce, or a Historic Preservation Department. Remember, we are a preservation-based revitalization program. We're headquartered in Chicago. As I indicated, I started with the center about 3.5 years ago to really spread the approach to bigger cities. Next slide, please. These are our two signature programs, Main Street America. Most folks are very familiar with Main Street America. As I said, we did a great job working in smaller places. Urban Maine has been established for the past 3.5 years, really trying to respond to the needs and unique differences that our neighborhood commercial districts are experiencing. Next slide. I don't care how great the program is and the methodology that I may talk about, but really people want to understand the impact of this work. So for the past 40 years, we've been tracking investment, tracking number of new jobs created, number of new businesses created, and buildings rehab. Mike noted small business tools. What I will note is this is a true economic development methodology that you can use on your commercial district. It does not only help small businesses, but it also builds the capacity of the community, the commercial district manager that's leading this work, and its organization to really have a clear sense and understanding of economic development. We're, like I said, tracking the number of new net jobs created, businesses, also buildings rehab. We're tracking buildings rehab because we believe in restoring and readapting existing buildings that may exist in these commercial districts. Next slide. The Main Street approach. So this is what we're known for. All of you are very familiar with collective impact models. You've worked with LIST through its quality of life planning. This is solely for commercial district planning. So this is a collective impact model, and we use 4 points when we're thinking about revitalizing a commercial corridor. There's economic vitality, really understanding the types of businesses that should be recruited, but also pairing those businesses with incentives, existing businesses with incentives, as well as loans, et cetera, to understand, how can you, really help the existing businesses that have weathered the storm, that have been on these districts for years, but also recruit the right type of businesses that would be able to thrive on that district. Organization, which I think is the most important piece of Main Street work, is really understanding that everyone is working toward the same goal. Having the leadership, strong organizational capacity, ensuring that there is broad community engagement, and forging partnerships across all sectors, right? It's very important as an important crust of this work. Design is really meaning that we're making certain as Main Street, our neighborhood commercial corridor, has an inviting and inclusive atmosphere, making certain that our buildings look great, right? Those buildings and those traditional pedestrian-oriented layouts are something that feels inviting, that people can walk through. Celebrating the historic character. In a lot of our urban districts, highways have been placed in many of them in places that I've been working across the country. So they may not have that traditional building fabric that we're really used to seeing in a lot of our small places. So ensuring that if we are doing infill development or any type of development that is being recruited to the district will match and mirror the character of this particular district. And then finally, promotion means selling the image and the promise of this Main Street, of this neighborhood commercial corridor to all prospects, right? You're marketing it to the existing residents that live there. You're also marketing the district's unique characteristics to people that may want to come shop there, investors, new businesses. This is really an effective promotion strategy, really forges a positive image through advertising, marketing campaigns, and really this is carried out by the community, because they're speaking the same language and talking about the vitality of this particular district. 7 years ago, when we spun off as our own 501c3, we added community transformation into the middle because we know that that many of our committees, because this is set up on committee structures, this is a volunteer-based program, it is community-driven and led, we recognized that people focused in areas that they felt most comfortable in, and that was generally design and promotion. We would see those for cyber innovation grants. You'd see a lot of businesses that, or facades that were renovated. You also see a lot of different festivals that were highlighted for these particular communities, but not as much work and support that was provided on the economic vitality and organization side, which is also everything that you need to make certain that you have a successful commercial corridor. So we inserted community transformation in the middle to ensure that all 4 points were being identified. They were being worked on together, and everyone remained on the same page. Coincidentally, the 4 points of the Main Street approach really corresponds well with the 4 forces of real estate value, which are social, political, physical, and economic. Next slide. This is Urban Maine and a program that I've been brought on to lead. Next slide. I just want to showcase some urban Maines that are at work in neighborhood commercial districts across the country. Next slide. I'm going to highlight Boston. Boston is one of our longest running urban Main Street programs. They came on early on with us in 1983. Currently, they have a network of 20 Main Street organizations that are utilizing this, this approach to create, build, and sustain healthy commercial corridors. Next slide. I'm going to try to go through this really quickly because I know we don't have a lot of time. All right. Since inception, and when I say inception, that's when all of the 20 Main Streets were on board. They have been able to recruit 1,394 new businesses with a total of 8,100 jobs. We recognize that our neighborhood commercial districts are generally the larger business creators, also the job providers for individuals in the community. They've had over 373,000 hours of volunteer time. And pre-COVID, I will say that their storefront occupancy rate was at 95%. This is in the entire city of Boston. These are in communities that look very similar to our communities here in Chicago. And since 2018, nearly 500 of their Main Streets were able to create some type of stimulate local business and community pride through their festivals. Next slide. Next slide. So we're working in Chicago already. We're currently working in 3 commercial districts. The Driehaus Foundation really came in as an early supporter of this work. They had very deep relationships with the National Main Street Center as well as the National Trust for Historic Preservation, our parent company. So we're working along the 51st Street corridor, 71st Street in South Shore, and the Beverly Morgan Park area. What services were provided to these communities was an 18-month engagement and included the business mix analysis, trade area analysis, neighborhood attitudinal surveys to really understand what do people think about this district, what are some of the changes, a lot of things that you have done and have already done through your planning, but really focusing it on a corridor and giving people an opportunity to start dreaming and envisioning the type of businesses that they would like to see. I also was able to develop transformation strategies for each one of these communities. Next slide. We're working to date in Charlotte, North Carolina. That's with the City of Charlotte and the Nye Foundation on the Beatty LaSalle 4 corridor. Next slide, very similar services that were provided. Birmingham, Alabama, in a historic civil rights district, also in the Woodlawn district in Birmingham, really developing these transformation strategies by the direction of the community and looking at previous reports that had been completed, but really ensuring that this was something that was developed from within. Next slide. In Chicago, next slide. So we have this, partnership with the City of Chicago to really start building out these build out these Main Street programs. And so first we need to start with, the fundamentals. I just told you about 4 points, right? Well, what does it mean to really develop those services? Main Street 101 trainings we will conduct with the commercial district managers as those managers are brought on. Remember, this is a capacity building program as it relates to economic development. We will work with communities and identify other types of services that they will need, but I have some listed for you: community asset mapping, engagement and partnership building, organization, so really board training. So whomever the lead organization that is identified to lead this work and hire the commercial district manager, they need to understand, what does it mean to manage a Main Street program? What are the roles and responsibilities? Volunteer recruitment and retention, resource development and funding. I don't care how many great projects that are identified. If we don't have funding to lead this, and it's great that the city is investing some initial dollars, but if we're not able to, find other dollars to fund this work, these projects will continue to be projects that we're just talking about. And finally, business recruitment and retention strategies. This is the first year of services that I would like to work with the commercial district manager, the lead agency, as well as the community. You see that I list here the capacity training and what does it mean? The fundamentals of Main Street, property development, zoning, equitable development and funding. What does that mean for your community? Also, who are some of the potential training partners that could come on board? We have some great partners at the table, but there are many other partners in the city of Chicago that can help lead us through some of this work. So how do we bring them to the table along with us? Next slide, I'm just going to say go to the second to last slide. Next one. And so, really based on what I've heard from these calls over the past few months that I've been participating, is that the program objectives are economic diversification, job creation, capital investment, workforce development. Well, Main Street gives you that easy framework to do all of those things. And these are just some of the items that I started to think about as we need to think about metrics. What are we going to report out next year to talk about how successful we were in Invest Southwest? How many businesses were improved? How many were actually served? Number of new leases created? Decrease in vacancies. These are things that we need to start tracking right now so we can determine how successful or not successful we've been with this program. But Main Street is really here to be that capacity builder for everyone that is involved on Invest South as a part of Invest Southwest to revitalize the corridor. And I'll stop there and open it up for questions if folks have questions.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Roberto Maldonado. So how does your organization work with communities that in bringing your assistance, your knowledge, somehow also incorporate the prevention of gentrification when it comes to importing new businesses into many areas that could be defined as blighted, but eventually gentrifiers take advantage of those opportunities, and then the long-time community is left out and behind?
I love that question, and it's a good question. Main Street is really about ensuring that we are supporting the local residents that exist right there, as well as the local businesses. What I did in the past is I've worked with, my colleagues in like Washington, D.C., and D.C. may not always be the best example, right? The Main Street program has really, I would say, accelerated growth in some districts that just were not desirable. But what they did with their Main Street managers is they worked closely with the city to incorporate policy. So things like legacy small business owner ordinances to ensure that our legacy small businesses that are there have the opportunity to remain in place. Also, if there are residents that, now their taxes are being increased, how can we incorporate and work very closely with the city to develop policy to ensure if people don't want to move, their taxes won't price them out. So there could be in DC, they developed a taxing program where for the seniors, and I'll use this example in H Street. People's homes may have been $100,000 10 years ago. Now their homes are worth $1 million, and the taxes could potentially tax them out. So what the Main Street managers did with the District of Columbia is sat down and developed policy to ensure that the most vulnerable were protected if they chose to stay. So we bring in examples from other communities and how they did it well, but we also bring examples of when they were trying to catch up to figure it out. And I often look to DC as that place that, it does not look the way it used to look 10 years ago. And so how can we get ahead of ensuring that equity is at the forefront of all of our conversations? If we are working with developers, do we have some type of equity score chart or tool? We use that as a part of our entrepreneurship ecosystem development. So new developers, as you're coming into these communities, have you thought about ensuring that there will be space available for entrepreneurs that are within the community, that have lived in the community, that want to own and start a business in their community? So we bring those types of resources and work with the community to develop what does equity look like for you? And how can we help facilitate that conversation for you? I'm not swooping in to give anybody any new ideas, because that's not, no one is looking for that. What I'm trying to do is really coordinate efforts that have already been underway for a very long time. I mean, we're talking about Connect Chicago. I worked on a Smart Communities program in Humboldt Park, right? How do we bring some of those different really technology programs that we've already seen that that have been very successful, and highlight those and see what hasn't been completed instead of trying to start from scratch, if that answers your question.
Partially, I still am very concerned about this type of initiative because my experience has been that it ends up with full displacement, and the community that was there before is no longer there. Communities in, I can give you examples, Logan Square, parts of Humboldt Park, and many other communities, that they have been completely gentrified, and these beautiful models come into play by organizations like yours, and the new tenant business owners, operators, they don't look anything like the community that they have come to invade.
I totally agree with that, and I understand that, these type of models need to work very closely with city government to develop policy. That's the only way we can protect our businesses, aldermen, is that if we develop policy to ensure that they're protected.
Yeah, that's where I had my question. That's where I had my doubts. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Diana, I had a question as well. This is Paul Roldan. I develop affordable housing in Chicago. So I'm wondering what the nature of enterprises looks like over the last 3 or 4 years as Amazon has increasingly, by the way, eroded retail throughout America, on-site retail throughout America. I'm presuming it's dropping precipitously, but also the nature of the businesses, that is retail, selling products versus services, and all of that. Can you speak to that change?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so what we're seeing is that more people want an experience, but we're in COVID-19 right now. So the ability to be able to offer those experiences on a commercial district is limited. But we are seeing that, across the country, I have seen an increase in individuals going back to brick and mortar locations if they're getting a particular experience, right? So it's those experience shopping versus chores. I'm going to do everything that I need to do online. Amazon, if I can get like my groceries, if I can get, particular household goods, yeah, I'll buy those online at Amazon. However, if I want a particular experience, I'm going to a destination business. I can't find that online. I can't find a organization or a business that sells this particular food that I want to get, or this experience that I would only get if I came to that particular commercial district. We're seeing is that districts are really beginning to understand what is their market niche. Why are people coming to their district? What brings them there? Is it a festival that they offer? Think about the High Park Silver Room Festival. All of those people that come to that 53rd Street now, they're coming there for an experience that they would get from that festival, and likely come back to go to the restaurants and go to the businesses, because there are things that I can only find on this district. That is the importance of a Main Street program. And we're seeing Main Streets are actually coming back. We saw they were coming back before COVID-19, but now we're in a pandemic. So, it's very hard to determine, a festival or something like that but we still have these market-based niche businesses that if they are doing some semblance of omni-channeling shopping. So for example, I have some of my goods and services, at a bricks and mortar location, but I may not need as much space as I needed in the past, right? So I'm able to, ship some things out. And the only reason that I have this bricks and mortar location is for someone to come in to either pick up a good or actually see a storefront display and have engagement with the property owner or the business owner. So we're noticing that, experiences, but now we're all in the midst of a pandemic. So we're leading research. The National Main Street Center is also leading research to determine what will the carnage look like after this pandemic is over. We're tracking how many businesses will actually be open who are a part of our network right now. This is vital information. We're doing on-the-ground research in communities that we're working with so we can understand what are the consumer attitudes of coming back to shop in some of these districts. What is the assistance that the businesses need? I'm doing this in Memphis and Atlanta and predominantly African-American communities right now, but this is the type of research that the National Main Street Center is leading and has been leading.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Deanna. Any other questions? Okay. So
Hey, Mike. Sorry here, Gerardo here, and I'm sorry because I've had to jump on and off. But were we able to share with the group the engagement with Main Street America that DPD has for this program? I just want to make sure we don't lose sight of that. And I don't know if there is any timing for how we can discuss that. And if you've already done, please forgive me. I just wanted to make sure that we at least brought that up.
Deanna touched on it, but no, not directly.
So what exactly are you asking, Gerardo, about the trainings and the training schedules and the services that we've been contracted to provide? Yeah,
and a little bit of clarity on that relationship, I think, is really what I was just, hoping to convey with the group. And obviously, I know we're not at the point of like specific schedules yet, but just a sense of where we're headed with this.
So similar to Liz Chicago, we've been contracted to come in to develop services. Our role is specifically capacity building services. And, to Alderman Maldonado's point, it's really ensuring that the community has these principles. I want the community to understand how to do these things, how to read market data, how to have a conversation with the developers. This is not for, this to be closed to a small group of people, because if that's the case, it will be something that is, led by a small group that's making all of the decisions. And so we've been contracted to provide those capacity building tools to residents, property owners, businesses, organizations that are interested in understanding this model and utilizing it to essentially revitalize their own commercial district. Does that answer the question that you were looking, or you were looking for us to say, Gerardo?
Yes, perfect. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Okay, thanks again. So with that in mind, let's just a quick refresher on our corridor. Just that, again, we're running basically from Kedzie to past Pulaski, Kedzie to Grand. And some of the priorities, that we've discussed previously, we want to redevelop the Pioneer Bank, limit gentrification, support small businesses, and improve communication, citywide. And, given the discussion that we just had, and Alderman, your concerns, the city has tools. I'm more familiar with economic development tools, but certainly the housing development tools are something that we can bring into this discussion a little bit more. Do we have the tools necessary currently to, facilitate this, maybe small business-led, community-led revitalization of North Avenue? And if not, or if we have the tools, but they're not working the right way, we need to hear from our partners on the ground how we can best kind of implement them. Otherwise, I don't think, we'll be as responsive and as effective as we can be. So I just wanted to kind of have a discussion if there's, within the limited time we have, if anyone has any bright ideas to share about just generally, supporting the small businesses and keeping in mind that the way we do it and how intentional we are, it matters, because if we do it in a way that's not responsive to the community, then we could just create a cycle of gentrification that would erase it.
Yeah, I thank you for making that statement. I think from my perspective, I think it's very important to engage community leaders that are really trustworthy of our community. Their work is known for fighting and preserving our communities. And the one organization that comes to mind is the Puerto Rican Cultural Center, because for decades, they've been fighting the forces of gentrification. That the only reason why Humboldt Park is not 100% gentrified today is due to their work. Like the Puerto Rican Cultural Center, there might be another organization like the Logan Square Neighborhood Association and the likes that can be part of a very strong committee that would be respected by the city of Chicago and their bureaucrats on the formulation of plans and the implementation of plans. Because I have every reason to doubt almost every action the city of Chicago takes on any initiative, because from my perspective, when it comes to affordable housing, for example, the city talks the talks, but it doesn't walk the walk. That's been my experience, having been in politics for so many years, and many of you are relatively new to the Department of Planning and the City of Chicago Department of Housing, but I've been around for a long, long time. And I have seen the transformation of several of my surrounding communities in our area, and I just tired of keep seeing the same thing and being promised something by the powers that be in the structure of the City of Chicago government, and then the end result is something different, and I'm not only speaking for this area here, where I do serve and represent the people of the 26th ward, but I can point out other areas in the city of Chicago which I foresee they're going to be completely gentrified. For example, the site of the Obama Library is going to be built. I mean, I hope that we can make a bet, and in 10 years we come here and we satisfy our bet, because that area is going to be completely gentrified. And I'm glad that the alderman of that area is fighting that. But like she is fighting that, I'm also fighting the same forces here. And I wish I could get to the point that I can trust the city of Chicago, but I'm not there yet. And I can show you some example. I mean, Paul Roldan, for example, has been trying to get some assistance to develop affordable housing to preserve and keep our people in our community for some senior development. Lucha is trying to get the second phase on their first phase for the 200 new affordable housing units that they want to build in this area. And so those are just two very recent examples. And I've been fighting with the city of Chicago to allocate less than 20 city-owned lots so that we can build affordable housing for the private market to be sold for less than $300,000 to truly middle-class families in the area. I mean, 4 years waiting, and I'm still waiting. So how can you expect me to have faith in a government that has betrayed the working families, at least in my area, for so many decades? That's why I'm so skeptical all the time. That's why I bring this point at these meetings all the time, so that you can be completely aware of where I come from and the push that I'm going to keep having in these meetings until I see that something real is happening to really protect the local businesses and the long-term residents of this area.
So this is Paul Roldan, and just to pick up, I have to get off in 35 seconds because I've got a 1 o'clock. But last discussion we had, and I hate to be continuing to be a thorn in your side in this planning process. Last meeting we had, we focused on within the boundary of the West, community of the city's boundaries, a project that we've been working on for 3 years is shovel ready. We have designs, all of that. We were turned down by the city last round. I sent that plan off to everybody who's on this conference about 3 weeks ago. Crickets, I got nothing back, not even saying, hey, I got it. Point is, when the city talks about equity, fairness, balance, it has to do with serving everyone. And apparently, not only are Latinos not in the mix in this plan, but we're being avoided. When I send out something like that, and you're looking for projects which may take 18 months, 2 years to do, and we can be building this in 8 months and get no response back, it's obvious that we're being ignored. So have a good day. Hope to see you next meeting. Adios.
I think that echo what I was telling you. And so the city has a lot of work to do, gaining our trust, at least my trust, and obviously Paul Roldan's trust as well. And I cannot embrace beautiful initiative like Main Street when I don't think that the city of Chicago will take the necessary steps to really put a break on gentrification in those areas where Main Street can come and make a difference. And that is my challenge, and that is something that I would not let go. And I presume that Lisette is in the same boat, I hope.
No, I appreciate that, Alderman. And Paul's not here anymore. I guess we're kind of out of time. I don't want to cut this conversation short. I was planning to discuss his project. It was remiss in not getting back to him, but we can facilitate, a meeting with housing. Again, housing is their own department now, but I think the city, in our conversation with them previously about this project, we can, to the extent that we can, champion the cause of the project, and as long as it's economically feasible, we can try to support it. We also, just a quick update on the Pioneer Bank. We have the name of the owners. Thank you for providing that, Alderman. And I did reach out to them, and they're open to working with the city and having conversations. So we'll get that meeting set up in short order. And then, as well as the site we previously touched on, the Department of Water Management site. I know that our commissioner is very interested as well. So as soon as you hear back from them, and hopefully they give us the go-ahead, we can have a meeting of the minds, discuss how we can develop this site. But
Mike, in the meantime, sorry, this is Sophia. I know everyone's running late, but do you have a couple of minutes to talk about the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund program?
Mary already did, Sophia.
Oh,
Mary.
she jumped on it already. Okay. Well, in that case,
Yeah.
As you can tell, we definitely want everyone to be engaged with the NOF program. And, I apologize, I jumped on late, but I heard a lot of the concern about gentrification. And for those who are not familiar with the NOF program, one of the things that I really like about the program and why I'm so passionate about it is the Build Community Wealth bonuses. Where local residents actually get priority and get additional funding, and those projects who intend to hire locally can also get bonuses. So in terms of what can be done to minimize gentrification, I would say from the business, from the commercial development side, the NOF program definitely has some tools built in to help support local wealth building and creation and keeping that wealth in the community versus going outside. So with that, I will go ahead and jump off. Thanks, and sorry about that confusion.
No worries. Thank you. Just last quick update. This is not in your ward, Alderman. It's in Emma Mitz's ward, but it's just right on the border. I think some folks on the call may be familiar with this. 1334 North Costner was sold to developer who plans on redeveloping it for some creative or just office space, like flexible office space project. All the tenants would be vacated and then they would be re-tenanted. We had just an initial conversation just with the developer, just letting us know the plans. He hasn't really sought any official city assistance as of yet, but given its proximity to the North Avenue corridor and your ward in particular, I just thought it'd be good to just make, if you weren't aware, to make everyone aware that this was a project, a privately project that could bring some, certainly would change the character of this building and maybe bring in some new people.
It would change the character of the neighborhood as well. That's across the street from my ward. It's not my ward. I know what those type of models bring in terms of the retrofitting of the usage of that building for those type of small offices. We have a bunch of them downtown and in other areas. That's exactly a symbol of gentrification of the things that I've been talking about.
I'd like to.
I don't know. Excuse me. So I don't know where Alderman Mitt is on that, obviously, but yeah, that's going to change. That's going to be a factor to deal with. Thank you.
May I say something? So I'm William from Nobel Neighbors. Our service area is from Costner to Central Park, or North Avenue to Chicago Avenue. So this has been in our service area, and I just want to say that Nobel Neighbors, and I want to bring this up because Alderman Maldonado, when an artist co-op was trying to come into the community and buy the church in our service area, you allowed us to negotiate a community benefits agreement with them. So I really appreciate that. The residents are the answers that we need for our communities, right? And so we've gone through process of creating a community benefits agreement in response to this particular project. Nobel Neighbors has created a community benefits agreement in consultation with the residents in the 26th ward, in the 37th ward, and along Costner Avenue. And we've been met with resistance and in fact, crickets from the developer since January. We've been trying to get this answers about this project since August 2019. We met with the developer in January 2020. We presented them the community benefits agreement, what we need as residents, as legacy commercial and residential and business residents. And they have wiped their behind with what the community needs. So we are coming out against this. We have a meeting with the developer and Alderman Mitz. Alderman Mitz is in support of this. And we're going to go bullet point by bullet points on the community benefits agreements and with their commitments toward that. They're bringing 800 new tech and community and maker space jobs to the community, and it is not for the residents, the legacy residents of the community, the Black, Puerto Rican, and Mexican residents and commercial and residential owners in this community. So I just want to state first and foremost that this developer is not working with the community. It is imposing something on our community, and because they're not taking any city funds and they can develop it as of right, we cannot do anything except for let them know what we need as a community. And we need the support of the city, because we asked them, how do you engage the community? They said, well, we've talked to so-and-so from the Department of Planning. We've talked to the police in the 25th district. They're helping us they're helping us get rid of all of the commercial tenants in the space so that we can bring in 800 new jobs and new residents to the community. This is bogus. This is real life. What everyone's talking about here, Main Street, what everyone's talking about here, the Department of Planning trying to push up against gentrification. This is the real deal. We have a developer that can develop as of right, and we have zero tools to deal with this. So I just want to say that Nobel Neighbors as an organization has put out a community benefits agreement that we think will support the community and the neighbors think that will support the community, and it's in context. So we need your support, and we don't need your support to support racialized real estate development. This is the real deal. This is what we're talking about, not some PowerPoints. This is the real deal. So we need your support to push up against this developer who could develop it as of right, and he's going to gentrify our community. And in fact, I want to say one last thing. They could not finance this project for many months. And what happened is they were going through the Chicago Community Loan Fund. They have a very strict rubric that they need to engage, developers need to engage community if they were to get funds. They didn't engage the community, so they didn't get the funds. So who did they go to? They went to the number 4 richest man in the city, Joe Mansueto, formerly of Morningstar. He gave them the bridge loan, the money for this. They were able to close in July, and now the Chicago Fire, he owns the Chicago Fire, they're taking a look, they're eyeing on Costner, the auto parts, 22 acres, to put the Chicago Fire training facility within 5 years. So this is what we're up against. And it's just little folks, small organization, working board, residents from the community, and we don't have any tools. We need your help.
May I jump in and say something, William? I completely agree with everything that you're saying. All of my work has been professionally grown and raised in Chicago. So the first thing that I could do, if I could bring a Main Street program here, once I found it, that was something I wanted to do. And I found Main Street while I was at LIST Chicago. Let me just be clear. Richmond, California has exactly near one of our main streets, Black and brown community, one of the exact examples that you're talking about. They use Main Street and their connection to the city to enforce the community benefits agreement that was created to ensure that the development was stopped until it was something that was developed by the community. But again, William, you said it, all of us got to be at this together. The city helping us with the tools, the alderman, you know, giving us his support. We already know he doesn't want gentrification without displacement. So how are we able to make certain that there is policy that is implemented at the city level to do exactly what you're doing? I don't care how my program won't be as successful if we don't have real policy to hold developers accountable.
Well,
and Dion, for the record, that's not in my ward, that building. I know exactly where it is.
That's Mitt's ward. Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
It is Mitt's ward, and hopefully aldermen that you get rewarded, new ward map and get over there before anything pops off. So anyway, as I was just saying, yes, we are at a disadvantage. There's no city tools to deal with this as of right now. So we had to create the plan. We had to create the community benefits agreement. 800 jobs, they're not for the residents of the community. We said the majority of 800 jobs are going to Black, Puerto Rican, Mexican, entrepreneurs, artists, makers within the community, and longtime residents that are hard to employ. That is part of our community benefits agreement. We are the answers to these problems, but yet we're screwed because the developer can develop as of right. And so, but we need your support because he's telling the community that he has support of the city of Chicago and the Department of Planning and whatnot. So we need you to back us up when we have these type of meetings, because we're going to have a meeting on Wednesday with the developer and go bullet point by bullet points on the community benefits agreement. And you know what they're going to do. They can develop it as of right, but we're going to do it because we created the solution to our problem.
Thanks, Bill. No, I agree. We don't, you know, when we don't have tools, we need to create them if at all possible. And you know, those are policy discussions we need to have at the Department of Planning and with your input as well of how to make it something that's effective and works. So we're well over time. I don't want to cut this short necessarily, but I'm an open book. If you reach out to me, I'll try my best to respond and get answers. So. Again, just for those who are left, thank you for participating. And let's continue talking about this when we get back next month, hopefully with some new updates and some positive things to share as well. Take
Have a
care,
good day.
everybody.
Thank you. Have a good day. Thank
Likewise.
you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care. Mm-hmm.